All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faith Cervantes. I am the team leader for Team Recruit Troop. I am joined today by Fabio D'Agostino. He will be presenting our primary research. Max Bova will be talking to you about our secondary research. And John Hamilton will present our findings, and he'll also give our recommendations. I'd like to ask you to please hold all your questions until the end, because this is a really short presentation. So let's begin. Like I said, my name is Faith Cervantes, and I'm going to introduce our problem to you. So basically, the instrumental music department needs help on recruiting players on campus. So that was our main focus. For our primary research, we sent out a survey to the undergraduate students at St. Ed's, and we asked a lot of different questions just to measure to see who has like musical capability. I know I am not musically gifted, so we needed to find out who was able to play and what instruments they could play. And then we also did our secondary research. We focused on schools that were our size, how those universities were successful in recruiting their players on campus. And so based on that, we came up with our recommendations. Now I'm going to pass it off to Fabio so he can go a little more in depth about our primary.
Thank you, Faith. Hi, as Faith said, my name is Fabio, and I'm going to talk about the primary research, starting from the data collection, where our purpose was to create a survey, 10-question survey, yes or no type, essentially with the purpose of recruiting and helping the music ensemble. Our survey our sample consisted of 160 surveys that were given to undergraduate students in classes during class times, and and then to maintain a 90% confidence level, we distributed these surveys throughout the classes. 3 of our surveys were deemed invalid because of errors or just like misinterpretation of our questions. And as I said, the purpose of the surveys was for the interest level of people joining the music ensemble. We found out that the information that students, only 1/4 of the students would be interested in joining the music ensemble, even though 50% of them played instruments. We also found out that most of the students don't know about the music ensemble. They don't know about this concerts going on. They don't know about the mariachis. They don't notice the advertisement in school. And also, I would like to add that our team said it would be a good idea to create a music major, even though after our research we found out that people, like 20% of them, were just interested in a music major, not all of them. I'm going to pass it to Max for our secondary research.
Hi, my name is Max Bova. My portion of the project was to do the secondary research, and that's what I'm here to talk about right now. So we started off by looking at which schools had the strongest music programs around the country, and we found that one thing that most of those had in common, and these were schools that were consistently ranked very highly in different rankings that we read around different websites and different publications. And we found that what most of these schools had in common was that they either had been around for a long time, so had a strong tradition and strong reputation, or they had a lot of money, or they had very strong alumni followings. And the problem is St. Ed's music department isn't as old as some of these other ones. A lot of these, the ones that were ranked very highly, were some of the Ivy League schools such as Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and a lot of other schools that were much bigger than we were, and had had much bigger alumni followings. But we did find some schools ranked highly that were in similar situations as us and had recently taken actions to improve their music program substantially. The first one was High Point University, and the music program had only been around for 8 years at the time. This was 8 years ago. They had been around for 4 years, and they were struggling. So what they did is they brought in an initiative. They added 17 focuses to their instrumental music major. So students would have the option of either doing just the instrumental music major or having an instrumental music major with a focus in one of these 17 instruments. And their program shot up immediately. And to this date, it's been 4 years and they've grown substantially. We actually found 2 different pieces of literature on Wright State University, which is a school in Dayton, Ohio. One of the pieces of literature was written by somebody who's in the staff of the music department there, and what this person was talking about was how one of the things that they did to strengthen their program was they focused on what they call total quality management, which is actually used in a variety of different disciplines and businesses and any other sort of really program that has any sort of goal. And what it is the company will just sit down and write down and file what their goals are and what the best ways to attain those goals are. So it gives the company a lot more direction. It gives every person involved much more direction, and it organizes the company very well. And their claim was that helped them substantially to recruit new members because the reputation grew so quickly once this total quality management was instated. So the students were very satisfied. The whole point is to have the customer, or in this case it was the students, to be satisfied with the system. And so once the students were fully satisfied, they were telling other people, and they found that was the best way to get people in, not from advertisements, posters or ads or anything else, but it was actually by word of mouth, by people who they trusted, other students who were their peers. And then another thing we found was Wright State University in 2008, 2009 implemented an initiative where, and they call it Collaborative Education, Leadership, and Innovation in the Arts. And what they did was they had their music program, their arts program, and their theater program all work together in these different collaborative projects. Two of the really substantial ones were, one of them was a documentary called The Last Truck, which was over, it was about a car dealership, or a truck dealership in Detroit that was failing, and it actually got picked up by HBO, so that gave them some substantial credibility. And then also, they did a production with the Philharmonic, the Dayton Philharmonic, and that also gained them a lot of attention. And then in 2011, then they were awarded the Ohio Center of Excellence, and they actually had Tom Hanks did a video broadcast congratulating them, and he had a ton of praise from this initiative, and said that some of the best people who he works with are from Wright State, and that this initiative helped them a lot. And we think this is probably the most substantial of our secondary research because it doesn't really require any formal so it wouldn't have to be that there's not a school of these 3 groups. It would just be, well, we want to do this production, theater department, would you help us out? Or art department, would you help us out with this? Because we know the art and theater departments already have majors. So being able to sort of tag along with them would definitely gain some reputation for the music program, which then would help the recruitment. So that's all I had. I'm going to pass it over to John to tell some of the recommendations I have based on our research.
Thanks, Max. My name is John, and I'll be going over our primary research findings and our secondary research findings and kind of lead into how those developed our recommendations. First off, one thing to keep in mind, I could see your eyes rolling in the back of your head there when you were trying to read some of these. They are a little dismal on the outlook on some of them, but one thing to keep in mind is that these surveys were administered in business classes. Most of them are upper level business students, juniors and seniors. So you got to keep their mindset kind of in, like, while you're thinking about these, and kind of keep that in the back of your mind. One of the biggest correlations that we saw was that we have 50% of students from our population that play instruments, but yet you've only got 25% interested in a minor, 24% interested in a major. And then the lowest percentage was 20% willing to devote time. The biggest correlation we saw between there was the fact that you have students that can play, but they're really just not looking to devote time mainly. And we kind of thought about it and divulged that, I mean, they've got so many things going on with their major, and especially as they get into their junior and senior year, all the extracurriculars kind of fade away, and they've really got to keep on that focus. I know business majors already have a very limited amount of elective hours to apply to things like extracurriculars. Our secondary research came from Max, and biggest, I guess the most important one we found out of there was the Celia program, because it really just raised awareness throughout the school, as well as throughout the students who are in those programs and their friends, and it really allowed for the different visual and performing arts to kind of bounce off each other, create ideas, and then create these events and these plays and ensembles that really promote the whole program. Some of the two of our best recommendations that came from there were to aim our efforts in recruiting at the incoming freshmen. As I mentioned earlier, once these students get into their major and they've really got to focus their workload, they don't have time to be going to the ensembles or taking extra music classes that they would like to. So one thing that we thought would be beneficial would be to get those freshmen who play, get them interested, get them playing, so then it becomes a part of a cadence of their course load throughout the rest of the year, and if they get really involved, they'll stick with it, and that will definitely increase recruitment throughout and kind of get a strong standing in the music program at St. Ed's. And then our second recommendation was to implement a program similar to Celia. I know there's tons of really artistic kids on campus, tons of graphic design, as well as our theater program is really doing well. So to get all of those to kind of come together, it wouldn't necessarily directly increase recruitment immediately, but to get that involvement working between the groups and kind of get the ideas rolling, I don't know, it's just more brainstorming going on between those groups. We think that would really be beneficial and increase recruitment. Now I'm going to pass it off to Faith, and she's going to close this out.
Okay, so to sum up our presentation today, Fabio talked to you a little bit about our survey, what kind of questions we asked. Max went over our secondary research, specifically Wright State and their program that they implemented. And John covered our recommendations, which I would like to reiterate. Our best recommendation is to make this huge fine arts program. We think that would best suit recruiting players on campus. Thank you for joining us today. Are there any questions?